All right, 12:02. You want to get rolling?
Yeah, is Kirk on?
Yeah, is Kurt on yet? Okay.
Do you want a sandwich?
I'm margin a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm good. You look different than last time. You had your Santa outfit.
It's Santa.
At the boss meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Very fun.
Good.
Great.
It is
Santa
professional.
costume. Great.
It's just a slightly different profession.
Mhm.
He still isn't it transportation? Yeah, very efficient.
Yeah. Good delivery worldwide. We can get going.
You get going?
Yep.
Should we cover some of the?
Let's just do introductions first.
Yeah.
Go around the table. I don't know if you want people to sign in on the sign-in sheet or just check them off the box or, okay.
Well, I'll start. So I'm Bill. So I met you all online for the first time in September. So this is the first time seeing some of you in person, but for the most part, I've seen everybody in person at this point. So at least in the room now. So I've been with BATA now about half a year. And I'm enjoying it and look forward to 2023 with you.
I'm Matt. I've been a rider of BATA for almost 23 years, actually 23 years. And I was on the board before, but stepped down for some reason. And now I'm back. And I've been in Traverse City almost my whole life.
Welcome in. Yeah. Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm the administrative assistant for BATA. Been with BATA for about 6 weeks. Also looking forward to this year.
I'm Linda. I was on the BATA board of directors, and now I'm a member of this committee. And I'm glad to be here because I think this is a really important group, and it can provide a lot of support to BATA employees. So I'm happy to be here, and I agree.
And I am Mandy Chapman. I've been riding almost 30 years, and I have lived here since 1978,
75.
75.
So,
Yeah. I'm Nick Treadwell. I'm on the city commission. I'm the only member of the city commission that doesn't own a car, so I've relied on BATA for my way to get around town. I can't say that I've ridden just BATA my whole life because like in elementary school, we had our own bus system. And going away to college, I rode buses in Ithaca and East Lansing, but I'm glad that BATA is here in Northern Michigan. Eric Lingauer, Director of Communications and Development for BATA. Met many of you over the years. We've with BATA for over 8 years now, and it's I really appreciate all of you taking the time to give us a little bit of your day to tell you what's going on in our world, go over our vehicle accessibility plan today.
Hi, I'm Tom Mayer. Susan Hodges is my wife. My wife's name. I'm a former county commissioner. Always been supporter of BATA. Thank you for having sandwiches. So I'm going to take one back for Susan.
Oh, yeah.
She's preparing for her radiation treatment. Is the reason he's not here. Starts at 2 o'clock.
Hopefully that goes well. Yeah.
Is
Well,
that the
it's,
first one?
No, this is number 18 out of 20.
And Susan, it'll be just fine because I was where you are right now about 20 some years ago. Actually, I've forgotten. I went through radiation treatment, so I have breast cancer. So it's okay.
Thank you.
I'm Lana Payne. I'm the director of the Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging. I've been the director for about 2 years now, the COA for 14. So I here to represent the senior population. Obviously, it's a big part of what I'm doing, but I also want to let you know I have a 27-year-old son who doesn't drive. He takes Beta. He works at Costco. He's currently living in Kingsley. And without Beta, I don't know how he would get around and do his life, but he is a firm believer in Beta. It's every day. So I have a couple different perspectives. But, so,
Yes, you do.
Yep.
And then,
Anybody online who wants to unmute at will, let us know.
Hi, I'm April Messias from Leelanau County Senior Services. And so I'm an advocate for the senior population. So I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm glad to be here with you virtually.
Thanks, April. We'll keep some chips for you.
maybe.
Nah.
Anyone else want to unmute and say hello?
Hi, I'm Demery Jones from Disability Network. I'm an independent living specialist and advocate for people with disabilities in our community. Glad to be here.
Thanks,
And
Demery.
Bill,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt there. I'm not using my camera today, but I just wanted to say hi to everybody. I'm Susan Odgers, and I've lived in Traverse City since 1987, and I teach at the college, among other things, right for the Record Eagle, and am a longtime Beta user and supporter and involved in many aspects of our community. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Oh, Michelle, I hear you just jumped on.
Hi,
like to-
yes, I'm actually en route, so I'm sorry, but I certainly didn't want to miss the meeting. So Michelle Crum, Grand Traverse Senior Center Network. We have locations in Traverse City, Interlochen, Fife Lake, Kingsley, and Williamsburg.
Very cool. Thanks, Michelle.
you got a good group.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for coming.
Yeah.
We have a couple things to share with y'all today, one of which is a accessibility plan, which you'll have, those here have a paper copy and those online, one was emailed about an hour ago. And this is a plan that we are sending to MDOT that describes our accessibility vehicles, description of some services for you all to look over and give comments on, so that we can give this to MDOT. We're going to have Kurt here talking shortly about some of the vehicular stuff, and the others we'll talk about also in kind of an update and summary of our services here with Beta. So the plan is really just to talk about what demand service, what demand response service we have, what the age is that require a senior, how many seniors and people with disabilities we do have living in the area that Beta serves. And also it describes you all as our local advisory committee and names you. And at the end of this meeting, we'll probably appoint someone who will become our chair for this coming year. So we'll do that today.
So
So
the chair is very low responsibility. We basically just need to sign off on meeting minutes and just say that we're meeting basically.
Yeah.
There's no formality. And like Bill said, teeing up this meeting. So at our January meeting every year for the local advisory council, one of the things that we need to do to basically check the box with the Michigan Department of Transportation is share what our vehicle plan looks like for the year. The written document is like the kind of formality of it, but we also have it visually to present to you guys as well, which breaks out pretty much exactly what's in the paper copy of the document here. And I'll start rolling through it, and if Kurt joins, he can pick up. So
okay.
we want to click through the slides. Yeah. So on the first slide, basically it shows what our current fleet is, and it has like representations of the different types of vehicles that we have. As you can see, the majority of our focus is kind of in what we call the cutaway area. They're kind of small to medium duty buses. They have seating from anywhere from about a dozen up to 24 seats in them. And a lot of them are propane. And we'll talk about a fuel type in a little bit, but the emphasis has been more on propane. And then the last two kind of buckets in there are some of our more heavy duty buses, our diesel buses, or large capacity vehicles. Those are flat nose ones, or the ones that are school buses that we use for specialized services like our bike and ride services and things like that. But our current fleet, I think if you added them all up, is right around 80. I think we're at like 82, 83 vehicles in our fleet right now. I skipped over we have a couple of vans. They're at the very top of the screen. You can't see them here on our presentation with the bar across the top. But we do have what are some transit vans that are part of our fleet as well. And we're looking to add some more of those into the mix too, as we move along. But that's kind of the mix. The focus again, like moving forward, is on those cutaways and kind of phasing out some of those bigger diesel vehicles. I call it like right sizing our fleet a little bit to match the makeup and the delivery of services, especially with some of our on-demand services that we're running kind of point to point, door to door, quick little trips and things like that. The smaller buses like transit vans and things like that work a lot better for kind of moving folks around. The only thing about the transit vehicles, and Matt or Susan could chime in as well, the lift for those vehicles are on the backside. So it's a little bit more difficult to kind of the mobility lift on those vehicles on the backside. So it can be more of a challenge to kind of get up into those versus the larger vehicles that have the door side, passenger side. Have you ridden in one of the transit vans before?
I think a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, years and years ago. It's a big van, but it was hard to go over the restraints
Mm-hmm.
because it was more enclosed like.
It is, yep.
But
And so we're trying to kind of see if we can find other models of the van that still,
maybe a little wider.
yeah, that work, that still have maybe a little bit easier for the mobility accessibility as well. So what does this kind of look like spread out from a fuel consumption standpoint? Propane is about 34% of our fleet as far as the cutaways go. But if you add the medium duty and the propane cutaway, that gets us up. We're almost bordering out 50% of our fleet getting up there in that propane perspective. Of course, gas is still a large chunk, and then we've got some diesel there as kind of that bottom 20% out, 25% there. And there's the next slide that kind of does the full kind of breakout of what those all look like. And then as far as the accessibility goes, it kind of shows where all the different breaking out parts there. And then the next slide. So what does our plan look like for adding more vehicles into our fleet? This has been a challenge for us. If you've tried to buy a commercial vehicle, like a personal vehicle at all, you may have heard or noticed that it's a little bit harder. It's getting better where their distribution chains are stepping up. Vehicles are becoming more accessible to purchase. But the transit side, the commercial side of the business is kind of lower down the line as far as vehicles being able to buy. So BATA is in the same boat. We actually have 3, 4, 9. We have 9 vehicles right now that are in the queue that either are not in production yet, or we've been expecting. We placed these orders back in 2020, 2021, right at the height of COVID. And here we are on the doorstep of 2023, or over the doorstep of 2023, and we're still waiting for these vehicles. Beta's goal is to roll over about 5 to 10% of our fleet. That's what we're trying to do, to keep the fleet fresh and to kind of keep new wheels on the road. But with production challenges, we haven't got new vehicles since 2020. Yeah, 2020 was the last. Yeah.
With that, are some of the older, tail end of the fleet vehicles running into increased maintenance problem, or are we not at a point where they actually create reliability?
It's a great question. And we haven't reached that yet, but that's a concern of ours, is knowing that we're not getting new vehicles like we used to from the production side of things, trying to keep those older vehicles on the road as much as we can, and keep them, because we don't know when that next set of buses is coming, and we got to keep a fleet as versatile. Great question. So yeah, that's what the 5-year plan. So into 2023 and 2024, we've got 13 buses on deck. Again, these are all kind of those kind of medium to small duty propane buses with cutaways. Another 13 that are running. When we will get these, we could probably start a pool here at this table and maybe win some money if one hits the jackpot on picking when that date is. But we are continuing to kind of place our orders in hopes that production will catch up.
So once it does, you plan on making up the 2 years worth of no buses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then for 2025, we've got 6 on deck. Again, those kind of accessible propane buses. 2026, 12 vehicles on deck. Yeah. And then 27, another dozen that are out there as well. Yeah. And so then what our ultimate goal is by the end of 2025 is to have close to 90% of our fleet being propane powered, which I probably have shared with this group before, is lower emissions, better for the environment. Fuel economy, it kind of is in line with our diesel and gas consumption. You don't get any better fuel economy using propane. We have been able to get a better price point with our propane fuel than gas and diesel, because we can buy it in bulk. We have our own fueling station currently at our facility, and our new facility that we'll talk about later will also have a few propane fueling station at it as well. So, and that's it really from a vehicle standpoint.
I haven't picked in as much this winter, but does the ability to run at colder temperatures propane an issue as well?
You know what, propane starts right up. There really isn't that kind of, you need to jump it or get it going or warm it up like you would with like a diesel vehicle. It's an instant ignition from that.
Which is why you saw, say, Bozeman School being an early adopter of propane, such that they didn't have to have 2-hour delays as often just because it was so cold and need to give the buses more time to warm up.
Yeah. One thing that's not on that list right there, we do have 3 electric buses in the queue for us through a pilot program through the state of Michigan. We don't know the ETA on when those will arrive, but we are excited to test some electric buses in the future. And our new facility will have the infrastructure prep so that the electrification of our fleet can be on the docket as more electric buses come in into play and are available for trades agencies to utilize.
Are those small?
They are. So there's a couple different versions that we're looking at. It all depends on what PennDOT puts on the state contract. Let me take a step back. So all those vehicles that you saw outlined, we purchased through the state of Michigan through a contract have available. So they basically lay out this menu for you, and say, here are the buses that we have contracts available for you to be able to purchase. If they're not on the menu, you can go out and create a contract for some of those for other types of vehicles. You just have to get it approved through the commission. So the ones that they've got identified, Tom, right now are like, they kind of look like smaller cutaways, but they've got weird, like a bubble front to them, a little bit different. Or there are some electric vans that are cheap that we might be.
With extended panel.
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
What about natural gas? Is that over on this?
So, but when we were making the decision to kind of put an investment in propane, we looked at natural gas at the same time. The challenge that we ran into is we didn't have enough to the infrastructure that natural gas requires to kind of create that natural gas filling station, things like that. Propane was a better, an easier investment for us at the time. You really need a natural gas partner, and you need more than just one entity to make it work. Like if we could get TCAPs on board, or somebody else on board to do natural gas with us, it would make a little better sense than just us kind of going alone. And with electric kind of being right there on the cusp, it seems like that's going to kind of be the trend moving forward.
Or just join if you have any questions.
Oh.
or to add anything.
I did have a question about
Yeah.
that. Just curious what BATA looks at when you go to the age of the buses. Is that a mileage amount that you can look at? Do you look at combo of age of the vehicle and mileage and maintenance, or do they have the set?
I'll let Kurt respond to that.
Kurt, are you in there? Can you hear us?
Hello.
For some reason, your audio.
Is he clicking around?
Where's the next closest place where they do have buses on? Somewhere?
Oh, Google says natural gas. Most of the trade agencies that's propane, like foods and things like that. It's a great question.
Honda's one of the innovators who have vehicles available on more fuel. Hydrogen fuel cell. Natural gas. Yeah. Electrics. Oh, that's great.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'll answer it to the best of my ability, and Kurt can chime in as well. We look at a couple, you named some of the factors right there. So we look at mileage of the vehicle, how long it's been in age of the vehicle, how long it's been in fleet, what the usage of it is, or the service type that we're having it, condition, vehicle and things like that. So all those factors can come into play. Kurt and his team have like this giant spreadsheet that they keep all the vehicles in, just kind of, they know what the cadence is. Okay, we get 5 more in, these 5 already.
So it's not a bingo criteria like, okay, this vehicle has exceeded 10 years of lifespan, or it's 500,000 miles, or whatever. It's a range of multiple factors.
It does, it plays into it. And Kurt's team also looks at usage type. So like, for example, maybe a city route that moves a lot of people needs a different type of bus that can carry more people, but is compact and can navigate city streets and things like that. Where a vehicle that goes out county, in Leelanau County, for example, could be maybe a larger vehicle that has to navigate the larger roads and things like that, and brings more people in and what like haul. We also look at seasonality too. When Cherry Festival is happening, what vehicles we need on the road for those particular times. When we have multiple services running, we're maxed out what vehicles need to be in which places, and it kind of all places to that.
A lot of pieces.
Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah.
This is Susan. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Okay. The first one is, I'm wondering if anybody at BATA there can help, and maybe Mitch can get in on this as well, how what we're talking about today fits in with the city's mobility plan. There's been a lot of press in the ticker in places this past week or so. Just wondering how, every time someone says accessibility and mobility, I don't know anymore what they're talking about, because it used to be just in the disability community and in the senior community, those words were used, and now lots of groups are using them. So that's the first question. And the second is what we're doing about attracting drivers, and if we're getting drivers with disabilities, how we're doing on our diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging criteria within BATA. Those are my two questions. Thanks.
Sure. You want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, so far, BATA has been a member organization of the Mobility Action Plan and has been participating in the discussions, but it's more of as a regional partner rather than a specific focus. I think once we get into more planning in terms of, say, identifying potential new bike corridors or places where we need to fill gaps in our sidewalk network, a part of that conversation is also where our transit routes could be better aligned with current or future trends and where people are and want to get to, and how we can have a fully integrated transportation landscape such that say, okay, you've got a bike route from this part of town to this other part of town, but from there people can connect to a bus line that can get them to Meyer or to the college or to some further location that they might have as a destination.
Yeah. So Susan, BATA, like Mitch said, BATA's been at the table for all the discussions, both from kind of individual core groups all the way up to full engagement with the larger initiative. And in tandem, we've also been working on our own transit master plan that plays into kind of connects into what's going on from a mobility perspective for the region too, which you guys were a part of earlier in 2022. I think we met with you guys in May or June with our consultant as a fact-finding portion of that. Your point about mobility becoming a very broad and encompassing term, and it has. Because there are so many different pieces of mobility now, like Mitch talked about, biking and walking and trails and the transit and things like that. It's kind of become just I don't know, like an overarching theme for that. And transit is just one piece of the pie, I think, from a mobility perspective. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I mean, yeah, the micromobility they're talking about too. They're talking about just connections between transit and other things, that last mile, and whether or not it's even scooters and everything else that they try to fit into the picture of what mobility is.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Having some difficulties here. I could not hear the question that was being asked about mileage, but as you were answering, I got the gist of things there. Is there anything I can add to that? We do track the vehicles very closely for cost of ownership as well as condition. There are some guidelines that we follow from the FTA for the life of a vehicle, but we track things very closely for usage and what it's costing us to keep a bus on the road. And so we try to garner every dollar out of a vehicle that we can before it starts costing us money or ever becomes a safety issue. And anytime we have a safety issue with a bus that's something we can't fix, then that would also be a trigger for a disposal on a bus. But I don't know if that helps any.
That answers it even better than I did.
Very good.
We already went through your slides. I'm sorry I didn't.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Sorry about that. I got tied up in another situation and couldn't get free, so I apologize.
No worries.
Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Susan again. I guess I could tie another one of my questions to Kurt, and that is, what did we learn with the millage passing? how does what the community gave BATA affect our purchasing and planning going forward?
Well, you know, I'm a little lost on that question. I'm afraid I was not quite ready for that one. We know that we want smaller vehicles on the road. A lot of the community doesn't want to see the bigger buses that are empty all the time. I think that's one of the factors that we really take away from that. We are looking to provide more of the smaller vehicles. We've integrated our transit vans more into our LOD services in that attempt. We've had some pushback from drivers in the past, but that has gone by the wayside. We've done better training to get them to utilize those vehicles. We're also, of course, trying to lean towards EVs, electric vehicles, and you know, be more responsible in that regard as well. You know, reducing any diesel buses that we are able to, and transitioning our fleet as much as possible. You know, with the challenges of any type of acquisition of buses right now, that's, you know, kind of really playing havoc with us. So there's just nothing available that we want, or else, you know, a very small portion of what we want is available. And so with the whole part shortage and the chip failures that the manufacturers had, where they didn't plan ahead for that, that's really tied our hands in a lot of things. So unfortunately, the amount of buses coming in is going to drop down a little bit in the next couple of years, but I think it'll rebound fairly quickly. So
Yeah, Kurt answered that spot on. One of the narratives, Susan, that we did hear coming out of the millage was, yeah, continuing to kind of right size our fleet to match the need of, you know, a smaller vehicle. Do you really need, you know, large Thomas flat buses kind of driving around on all the routes and things like that? So really kind of looking at that as an emphasis and a focus so that it's the right vehicle for the right service delivery.
and, you know, one other thing on that with the disposal of the buses, especially when you're talking about the Thomas buses, you know, we can't just pull those off the road and say, okay, we're not going to drive those anymore. We have to utilize the assets that we have, especially with no new assets coming in. I know there was a question earlier too about how do you decide and is there a plan? I have a plan out to, I think right now it reaches out to like 2035 for my yearly disposal of the fleet that we currently have. So I have a plan for, you know, between 5 and 7, 8 buses every year being disposed from now and through that time period. So yes, it's, and you know, those are subject to change, accidents, condition of vehicle, anything like that. But we do as much as possible to try to forecast, you know, a plan so that we, once we become, start working with an MPO, we will have the ability to plan out our capital so that we're able to fund those vehicles for those years with a strategic plan of hopefully replacing 10% of the fleet every year. And 10% of the fleet every year really keeps you in a new fleet, so to speak. Right now, our age of the fleet on average is, I think, 6.8 years and 202,000 miles on the vehicles. And that sounds like a lot of miles, but we put a ton of miles on them. Before we retire a vehicle, we're anywhere from 400 to 500,000 miles on a vehicle, because we do so many loops in town. But we're also servicing those vehicles every 2.5 weeks approximately. And of course we're supposed to do 2 times a year. We're supposed to do a safety inspection, and we're closer to 3 or 4 times a year on safety inspections. So we really take the fleet conditions seriously, and that's kind of how we do it. And then, so Susan, your other question was, how are we doing on attracting staff, especially specifically drivers and things like that? And in all honesty, it's a challenge. It is, staffing is probably our #1
as far as minus vehicles. I'm sorry, vehicles would probably be right up there too, but staffing is high on our level. We are, so in November of 2021, Beta reduced its service down to the staffing level that we had today. We were running a lot of overtime, and staff was getting burned out and things like that, and we made a hard decision in November to just kind of match service levels to what the staffing that we have, and we've been kind of on that cruise control pattern. We have been able to bring back a couple services, some weekend service on Saturdays, some more frequency on a couple of the city loop routes, beefing up our link on demand a little bit. But overall, it's been kind of in that cruise control area. We are still at current service levels, could probably hire 5 drivers today. To add anything more, we're looking for another 10 to 15 drivers to kind of beef us up a little bit more so we can bring some more stuff back online, or roll out some of these initiatives that we identified in our transit master plan that kind of realign and kind of give Beta a little refresh and bring services out. The things that we've been doing that have been successful as far as attracting and retaining staff, the Beta's board approved a $10,000 recruitment and retention hiring incentive that's spread out across a 3-year investment for working for Beta. In December, they extended that for another 6 months into June here to help bring that. That has been a game changer from our perspective, at least people interested. People get, at least kind of knocking on the door and looking for opportunities. We still have to maintain our level of candidate that comes into to drive a bus, meeting certain criteria from the MDOT and from the FTA to drive for us. But yeah, that's probably our #1 challenge as far as being able to expand and grow, is get some more drivers in the door.
We're fighting with Traverse City Public Schools.
Oh, did you see that article?
To try to maybe turn to us and ask, can we help a little bit? When I hear these kids sit for an hour and a half
Yeah.
waiting for a bus to go home, that's got to be pretty tough. Somebody's got to be there supervising. And I know we service schools now. We've got 2 or 3 schools that we take students to, and I'm thinking maybe they're going to come and ask us, can we help, or can we come up with something, because they're very short on drivers.
So for those of you who haven't seen the article in the Record Eagle this morning and or pay attention to what the TCAP school board has been discussing, they are also experiencing a driver shortage as well, and are looking at alternate days of busing, or east side, west side, and things like that. I know we have had some initial discussions with them about how we can help each other out, all the way from driver pool resources, or education around existing services that we have that align with the different schools and things like that. Bill has already done a fantastic job kind of at the start of the school year, kind of educating the different schools about the options that are there. And we do have students that utilize the Bay Line, routes 31 and 16 that hit Old Mission and Woodland School, route 12 that kind of connects to West Middle School. We run a bus back and forth up to West High School and Children's House, Montessori, that is up there as well. And then route 13 can help out East Middle School too. So I think, depending on what the school board decides, we will help in whatever capacity we can. And I think we are going to see some higher utilization of students if they can't get home in another capacity type of thing.
So they're putting in some terrible hours for the buses.
Yeah, could be a challenge, but I know we have a conversation with them. I don't know if we've come up with a solution yet, but yeah.
Well, Lansing Public Schools just gave all their high school, not just, it was several months ago, but gave all their high school students bus passes. And said that, hey, if you can't drive yourself or walk or bike to school, there's a decent bus system here, so just ride the public bus system.
Yeah.
But they have greater number of routes, greater coverage, and higher service frequencies than Beta.
Yeah.
But that could be an opportunity for Beta to step up the service frequency for those routes that serve one or more schools at those morning and afternoon times.
Yeah, definitely. And look at capacity as well.
Yeah, if capacity and budgets were unlimited, I'd say say yeah, okay, Beta can take the whole contract for TCAS busing.
Yeah.
Then Dean Transportation would want us to.
Yeah.
No, oh, I would say buy out Dean Transportation while you're at it.
They still need drivers.
Last I heard, the market capitalization for Greyhound is 78 million, so that's really not that much.
Sure.
Eric?
Well, oh, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I don't know if in the room, the slide is still up showing the library and the Beta Transit 101. But one of the things that I want to draw everybody's attention to when we're talking about a mobility plan is if you go just beyond the library, and let's say we were all having lunch at the filling station and we all wanted to walk back to vehicles or the bus at the library, because of those railroad tracks, I mean, bicycles more or less can get over them. Little kid bikes have difficulty. Somebody pushing a baby stroller, there's some difficulty, but it's really tough for someone using a wheelchair. It's very easy for your wheels to go down in those track lines. So what a person like me and others end up doing is going out into the road, which is really dangerous. So I don't know if this repair, and also then if you go down to the light, crossing there is really, someone in a wheelchair is the height of the cars. So with all those different traffic coming from different directions, I know a person in town who's getting a master's at MSU did a study, Fern Spence did a study of just that corner for people with disabilities because it can be very dangerous. So I don't know when we're looking.
Susan,
Are you there, Susan?
are you?
She's still attached, she just might be frozen.
Well, the city might know more too, but with the new city plan, they're looking at individual people have a chance to comment on areas where they need improvement, and this could be one of their. I know that whole intersection got a lot of comments on this.
That intersection in particular with the library, the railroad, the
TART trail,
filling station, the TART trail is definitely on the radar for the mobility.
The focus so far has been primarily on locations that say don't have a crosswalk, or where there's not a sidewalk along a place that otherwise has high traffic and would likely have high usage if a sidewalk is put there. But as we get more into it and actually take a closer look at some of those locations, you do end up looking at things like, okay, the bus stop is here, but people are coming in the immediate vicinity from these various areas, and there may not be a convenient way for especially people on wheels, whether it be a wheelchair or pushing a stroller, to get from where they're going to that bus stop.
Yeah, I know that intersection in particular is definitely on the radar for improvements for sure.
It's been on the radar, I'd say, ever since the railroad tracks came out 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm back, Eric.
No worries. Did you hear Mitch's feedback at all on that intersection?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Before we transition out of Kurt, were there any highlights from your slides at all that you wanted to specifically call out, or messages that you wanted to share with the group before we switch into the kind of service hours and things like that?
Not too much. So thanks for asking. It's just that, again, we are struggling with the fact that bus availability for new buses is very difficult right now. We are looking at some other options to see if we actually have any options. I've actually got a demo bus coming up here in a couple of weeks from a company in Wisconsin, because we can no longer get the E5 or the F550s, which are 300 series buses. And we really like those. Those between the 450s and the 550s really balance us for that somewhat smaller and yet adequate size bus for our routes, especially like the Bay Line. The 550s work really well on that for seating capacities. And of course, the 450s we use all over town as well. So, we're still just trying to balance things out, and hopefully in a couple of months, the transit electric vehicles will be on the contract for the state. And I have 3 of those that I'm going to order if that, when that occurs, not if. So, but that's about all the updates I have on that. Again, sorry that I was late to the meeting, but if anybody's got any more questions about fleet, otherwise I'll jump off.
All right. Well, thank you
very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now Bill's going to transition over to just kind of where BATA is at right now. What routes do we have on? What services are we delivering? And from there.
All right. So yeah, this is just a summary. You've all seen this before, but we haven't really changed much since our last meeting. A lot of the routes are basically the same. Last September, we just now got back some of the frequency on Route 1 and 2. We're still at that same point now. Most of the day, Route 1 and 2, we have the 30-minute frequency. 2 is not quite there for the whole time yet. 1 we got back a lot back in the early fall or late summer. At Bayline, we're still at the same frequency as we've been for a while. 20 minutes, sometimes even a little bit more during some heavy traffic, and about 30 minutes. But it is on Saturdays as well. But that started up last summer as well. So for the most part, the city routes are all still the same as they were last time we met. But they're as we get to later, they're filling up. They're doing all right with ridership. The Village Loop, same thing. We haven't brought back Route 11 yet. It's still out. We still haven't brought back some of the extra times in the middle of the day for routes, say 13 and 14. Route 12 is still, we don't have Route B's back yet, Bus B's back yet, but they're doing well. We'll talk about their numbers later. Route 16 and 31, the school year started, and those are doing quite well this year. And I have a graphic later to show that. So basically everything is the same as it was. We haven't taken any service away. We haven't increased any service. But as far as our ridership goes, look at it. Since COVID, we had the ridership went down after a peak in 2019 as having almost 500,000 rides a year. Very similar to what for the whole system. Very similar to what the Cherry Capital Airport did that same year. And then COVID happened, and then our ridership went down with service, mostly because of service went down and because of the pandemic issues. Just counting our city loop and our village loop routes, not including any link on demands or even the student routes, our total boardings for 2021 were 265,420. And you can see throughout the year, it kind of stayed fairly steady with the big bump there. This bump here is July. And then in the wintertime, it went far down in 2021. If you remember too, COVID is really kind of coming back around this time too.
And that's when we got our large service.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then 2022, as you can see, it just kind of kept increasing. And we have at our peak in the summer there, and then it went down, and it didn't decrease quite so much in the winter as it did the year prior. That is just our Bay Line city loops and our village loops. But if you include other routes, well, let's go into this for first. So, and then for revenue hour, you can see that the revenue hour in 2021, we had about 4 riders per hour then, whereas in 2022, partly because the service, we didn't have as many buses on the road, but we still had the same amount of people wanting to ride the buses. So we had almost double the amount of folks on the buses for the next year. So
We're being more efficient,
Mhm.
but providing less service. So it's a hard balance, right? Because what we're seeing is ridership demand is up here, okay? Our service levels are right here. And so we're trying to cram as many people as we can onto the vehicles that we have. And so we're being very efficient, which is a great number, but we want to have more service on the road to move more people and give more people options. So.
And yes, if you dramatically increase the service, then you will see ridership per bus go down.
Right.
But you would see overall ridership numbers go up.
That is correct. We've got the secret sauce.
And of course, besides just our regular standard routes, village routes and salutes, we also provide a lot of services like we were talking about earlier to students, such as routes 16 and 31 are for some of our campuses that are not serviced by TCAPS routes. And that doubled from 2021 to 2022. You can't fully see this, but it's like 14,000 to I think 25 or 26,000 rides. So we have these large Thomas buses that are really filling up. 50 students on a bus in the morning, afternoon. So those are quite popular. There's a lot of demand for students with BATA, not only to non-TCAP schools, but to TCAP schools as well. Sort of the Bay Line, you can see the high schoolers get on there, and we have a link bus here that goes up to the high school, and many others that have the ridership from last year to this year has been a big change. So, and that those student rent numbers here are not included in these numbers as well. So if you put the student numbers in here, you're looking at boardings per revenue hour, you're looking at some way off the chart here for the student routes versus the city routes here. So we couldn't put it on the same graph, it won't even look good. So link on demand, something that we started more than a year ago or so, it's really taken off as well. So the hours, we still offer that 7 days a week. We also have the village link as well, the one we can call ahead. So those have, let's see if that's here, the ridership in 2021 was about 42,000 or so. But that's the one where you use the app and you can get it that day, city limits, which should be expanded later on this year when we get the new server. But this past year, again, about double again, more than double. So when we reduce in service on some of the fixed routes, a lot of folks are turning to the link on demand, particularly for where maybe routes 4 or route 5 once went. So we have these link on demand options. Or some of the village loops we're not.
She's getting on, and I was just going to say the transition actually for her has been wonderful because there's been no interruption.
No.
She actually gets to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah.
It's almost like-
You like it?
Yeah.
Good.
I was gonna say that. That's why we want.
And
that's
very,
Very good.
very, yeah, Matt will remember too. I can talk back 30 years to the old days when things were so bad that it was like, good luck, call for the bus, you may or may not get one. And now it's like, if that bus is 2 minutes late, you're going, they must have a problem because you're just so used to them always following the schedule, and it's worked wonderfully well.
Yeah.
And technology certainly helps too, with the fact that you could,
Yeah.
the technology is guiding the drivers and it's user friendly.
And then what about- Oh, and what about,
You can almost set your watch by.
Do you use the app or text to
No.
get information
No.
when it's coming
Sets her right here.
yeah,
in? So it sets it up here.
yeah,
Just put at the
because I don't know how to do it.
Well, we could do it, but if they're willing to do it, when you're standing here, she has to wait almost an hour to come home.
Yeah.
Then they just schedule her for the following week, and
Yeah.
it's always the same time.
Yeah.
She gets them to write it down, that it's
Well,
8:10.
I always had that they started to
But we
go.
know every day, and so.
And even if you don't use the app, I know if you just have a cell phone number, it'll actually just send you text saying that the
I
bus
love
is
that.
on its way. So,
That's the other great thing.
And whoever set that up was, because then I know that I'm not gonna miss my bus, or that I'm gonna not be no-showed, or years ago, I was no-showed many, many times, and I'm like, I scheduled this bus, but we were out here and they just drove right on by, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, your bus was already there, sorry. You know, I dealt with that for quite some time, and the new texting system is like, whoa, your bus 205 is coming
Be here in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it takes a little bit more time, but they're trying to find the location as to
Yeah.
where I live. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm-
change. Be like, I'll be there in 2 minutes. And eventually, you'll be there in 2 minutes.
Right, and that's okay, because, you know, because
At least
I'm
you know
looking
the
outside.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I'm looking outside going,
And it's frightening. It's frightening for people.
It is, and it
They're totally dependent on that.
I can
bus.
see that.
When
I
that
love
bus leaves you, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? Because they don't drive. They've got an appointment, you know, when I was the chairperson of the Friends of Transit for a long time, and that was the main problem, that especially I had an older group, and they'd have doctor's appointments and everything, and half the time they wouldn't get to their appointments, and no way to know, is that bus coming after me or not? And the doctor's office is looking at it like, this is terrible. We have to do something about this, you know, now. I can't imagine we're getting complaints from anywhere like that.
The most challenging thing for the on-demand system is keeping up with the demand.
Yeah.
A couple different things. So one, Bill already hit on part of it. We reduced our fixed route service footprint. Okay, so there aren't as many buses moving around on the fixed routes. Okay, so people gravitated to what they could utilize, which is the on-demand bus. So that's one reflection there of why we've seen the numbers double. The other thing is, I think with COVID and people's perception or want to use a technology and request a bus in real time has lent itself to that service going up. You know, you can book it immediately, or you can book it a day in advance. You know when your bus is going to be there. It's a door-to-door ride. You don't have to wait at a bus stop for them to pick you up. You know, and in most cases, you may be the only person on the bus, or if there's not, maybe there's 2 to 3 people on the bus at a time. So you're not in a crammed environment if you have some sensitivity to that kind of you know, thing with COVID and things like that. So, yeah, we've really seen that service take off, and it's hard because you could throw more drivers at it, and if you do, more ridership is going to go up. We've got to kind of balance it across fixed route, which is more efficient and more effective to run because it has its set time and stops and moves people better, but also balancing what the customer wants, what people want as far as utilization goes. So
I wanted to say, I love having Route 1 go up there because it's so convenient.
mhm.
I can cross the street and it's right there, and get on it, and go downtown.
Yeah.
Until I got here today, so let's keep that bus going.
Right. So that's a great option. Matt, for example, is you've got 2 choices, right? You can choose the fixed route if you want to,
Right.
or if you need an on-demand bus because the fixed route's not matching your time or your destination, you can also have that on-demand bus as a choice.
And it works just wonderful.
Yeah.
For the LOD riderships, is there a spreadsheet or a GIS layer so that you can see, is it people that aren't matched by the fixed route, existing fixed routes because of their destination, or because of the time frequency, or because of some other factor?
So we've got heat map capabilities that show origin and destination as far as trips go for those one-way trips. And it will help guide as we bring the fixed route back or improve it if we need to modify a route connection, things like that. So yes, yeah,
Because yes, you can say that services were cut, but do you then see if you went from a half-hour frequency to 60-minute frequency in that same general service area, higher LOD usage?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just because,
Yeah.
give me just one second. Oh, about the whole new phone system. I like it in a way, and it's hard to talk through the machine, so I'm glad that everybody can understand my messages.
Oh, you mean our phone, our
Yeah.
telephone system?
Yeah, it's neat. I like it.
We've been going through some growing pains with our phone system.
I like it. Don't.
Okay, so we made some changes to our call tree when you call into Beta. Due to staffing, we had to make it fully automated for a little while. Now we've added the ability to talk to someone live and quicker. So when you call in, you can actually talk to someone live immediately if you want to, or you can go through the call tree and get into the different buckets that you want to.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I'm just leaving a message. Hi, I need to go to,
Mhm.
Myers
Yeah.
or Walmart or
Mhm.
Tom's or something. It was neat, but I'm glad that somebody called you back to refer or to
Yeah.
get that. So keep that going. I mean, it's cool. The other downfall to that is that it doesn't give someone a job.
Mm.
Unless there's somebody listening to all those.
Oh yeah, we've got a full, don't worry, we've got a lot of dispatchers in there.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm saying this out part that everybody, they need jobs. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
Oh,
this
no.
is not taking away. It's giving.
No,
We could hire a few more.
Okay.
Yep.
And I like what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
they do.
What I'm saying is.
Good.
Because then they can understand what you're saying. Just call you back. Oh, hi, is this so and so? You said it. Because sometimes I flutter up and they're like, who's this?
And that's our goal moving forward, Matt, is to provide a variety of ways for people
I love
to schedule their rides or get information. So we're always gonna have the phone. We'll always have that phone system that's available for anybody to just provide. We'll have app-based, where we have our web portal that you can be able to schedule in rides and get information. So we're gonna have all of those bases covered. And even like Mandy, even walk up to the window and schedule your ride that way too. So
I do
Eric?
wish that you could get in touch with a dispatcher in hours when buses are running, but it's outside of normal business hours, and perhaps this building is not open. Because I've been in situations where, say, I leave my phone on a bus, and I realize, okay, I know the bus number, I know what route it was on, but I don't have a number that I can call that would then be relayed to the driver to say, hey, this person left their phone or their wallet or whatever on that bus. So then I just have to know, okay, it went this way, then it will be turning around and coming back. So I'll have to try to time myself to be at a bus stop to catch the same bus, hop on, go back and see that was on, get my phone, wallet, whatever.
Sure.
Get that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the expansion of availability to contact someone is something that we're looking at too.
Because it's like, okay, yes, I know that you don't need to have somebody in the office and have this building open 24/7 or even the whole time that the buses are running, but there is some dispatcher somewhere. There are ways to communicate with the buses that are running. They just aren't accessible to people that might want.
Right, sure. Did Susan have a question?
I think
Yeah.
Susan,
Eric, and Bill, I'm wondering, we have several people on the call today that work with seniors. What are they seeing in ridership? Is it flat? Is it increasing? Just get some feedback from several of the folks.
I don't really have a way to know what our kind of ridership is. We're not really.
I know you guys hand out bus passes. Have you been handing out
We
more?
do beta passes. Yes, we increased, usually at the end of the year, we'll still have, budget dollars available.
Mhm.
And so we increase those at the end of the year. And so we always have people that want more than what we give them.
Mhm.
And we increase that. It's just a constant need. I don't know that we've really seen an increase necessarily. It's just it's a constant need. We did have someone call us today verifying that once it's not doing transportation for medical appointments.
Yeah, that was a recent.
Yes, so we are seeing more calls with that, wanting to know what the options would be for transportation for their medical appointments. So
Yeah,
that piece right there has thrown a whole nother challenge. into
it has. Bill was in conversation with them as well, when we learned that they were gonna be drawing down that service.
Right, I gave them our information. They said they'll forward that on to folks who
Is-
call their number for beta.
Is that just for Beta that they are, or is that all public transit agencies that they work with, including Benzie Bus and,
Munson?
yeah,
Munson had it was a non-emergency type medical appointment for the public service. It was costly. It was about $60 per ride, give or take, I think. But people used it. It had sometimes it had a nurse and it had other things on board that you can use for medical transport. But they're no longer using it for public access. It's all in-house. It's for discharge or for facility to facility within Munson, that type of thing. So it's no longer for public to call and say, I need this ride to this and that. So they will forward that on to Beta or other services for folks who need any type of appointments or whatnot. So if it's not in-house Munson, then we're not working with the public on that.
because I know that they had also utilized in Benzie and Manistee counties the public transit services.
Benzie, yeah, they have their own services, like they'll take folks to different appointments and such as that, just like Beta does, but so that probably doesn't impact what Benzie would do. It could probably just increase their need as well.
April, I know you're on the line. Have you heard anything from the Leelanau County seniors at all as needing more transportation or an uptick from your side?
We have seen an increase in people requesting rides to medical appointments, and then Munson is a big loss for us. We use them a lot for people who were in wheelchairs or have mobility challenges. So that will be challenging. We give out bus passes as well. I don't know how well they're utilized. I mean, I did speak to a senior yesterday. He uses Beta. He arranges a ride on a weekly basis to take him to the food pantry in Lake Leelanau, and he couldn't say enough about Beta and how he appreciates everybody. And he talked about the dispatch. He's like, I think a lot of people are scared to even make that first call to arrange for a ride. They don't know the lingo. They don't know what they're asking for, what they need to ask for. And so that's overwhelming, but he felt like that things were better on the dispatch side than they have been in the past. So that was interesting to hear his take on that.
Yeah.
Make sure able to let them know they can call, Eric and I too. We can talk them through that first ride.
We definitely.
We'll talk them through it. We'll visit with them. We'll go out there and whatever it takes to get them comfortable with that first ride, they can call us up.
Okay, great.
I know I'm a little bit, but how are the Suttons Bay routes going? As far as coming in from Traverse City?
They've been consistent, with they don't have the B buses on the menu. So they're every 2 hours, but the 2 hour frequency has been keeping ridership flowing on it. So
Okay. I haven't been out to Sutton Bay in years.
Oh.
Because that's where my parents they live between Traverse City and Suttons Bay.
Okay.
Tom's West Bay.
Okay. So not that far out, right?
There's still, well, I don't know if you guys follow the rules anymore, where it's only 2.3 miles you can go.
It's 3/4 of a mile that you can deviate off there, but you can always do a village link ride.
Oh, you can all the way out? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they go, my parents live out in Leelanau County,
Okay.
In actual Leelanau County, 6 miles out from Tom's
Gotcha.
West Bay.
Yeah, Matt, you can always request a village link and take you there.
Okay, does that need 2 week notice, or does that?
You can book up to a week in advance.
Oh, if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all based on first come, first served ability.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but all of that is gonna be changing.
Oh, to the better.
They kind of tease up for the next slide that Bill's gonna talk about.
So a lot of us, are talking about how nice it is to have the text feature. This is where your bus is, to know where your bus is going to be there, to not have that anxiety that sometimes comes with transit of do I have to run to this stop? Am I going to be 1 minute late, which means I have to wait for 20 minutes, 29 minutes or whatnot, or am I going to be 1 minute early? So the technology that is similar to what we do for Link on Demand, where it tells you your bus is coming or where your bus is, we'll soon have for all of our fixed routes here in Traverse City. So we'll have, it's a GMV type technology. If you ever ran a bus system where you might have monitors somewhere that show where it is, you have an app that might show where your bus is. You might have a text feature that might say your bus will be here in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That way you know when it's time to go to your stop. You can spend a few more minutes drinking coffee and somewhere warm. Your app or your phone can tell you that your bus will be here at a certain time, and it's real time. So right now we do have, the transit app and Google Maps, which is using a schedule online. It's just a schedule that will just tell you the bus is scheduled to be here according to the schedule at such and such time, but it doesn't necessarily know where that bus is in real time for real. This does. This knows by GPS tracker where your bus is all the time. It's going to tell you where it's going to be at the stop you want. So this technology is going to be available this spring, it sounds like. So we just signed the contract for that.
Yep. So we, at this time last year, we told you that we had RFPs out for this technology. It took us all year to get through the vetting process and the approval process with the state of Michigan. But in December and right before Thanksgiving, we got formal approval and selected vendors for both fixed route side and an update to our on-demand side.
So really kind of a game changer with transit, especially with nowadays, if people just want to know, and they have the access to these little screens all the time to tell them things. They want to know where things, they want to know for sure what time they're getting somewhere. This does kind of help some of that stress in riding transit, of knowing when you're going to be there. And the other.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to download the app on my phone just yet.
So that's a question that once we get through these technologies, I want to get feedback from you guys on this. Like, because we're going to be rolling these out probably late May, June. Okay. And I'd really like to get everyone's input on how best to educate folks on these new technologies and how to teach them to download the app.
Right, yeah, because I've got an iPhone 12, so
Have you downloaded like the Transloc app or anything for our link on demand?
I think it might be on there.
Okay, I can kind of show you too. It's going to be a similar thing. You could if you have an Apple, you're going to go to the Apple store. Or if you have an Android, you're going to go to the
I
Google.
might have the app, I just don't know.
Well, we can show that. And that's there's gonna be some of that folks will have to go through some type of.
Yeah, because I always call and I don't.
The app is
fine.
nice.
Yeah,
But
which is the
fine
app.
works.
Yeah.
But but this will be a similar thing. Download it, use it. It'll look very similar to your Transloc from
You might be able to schedule something right in the building with all the riders coming through.
So
I'm unavailable to help download.
Yeah, so maybe we set up open houses.
Yeah.
Like at the library and here and
We might have,
maybe the senior center or whatever and
more people too.
yeah. Mhm.
We can even try that first with our Journey app to kind of do so. That's a paying app. So.
And I don't know how to do that either.
Yeah.
On my phone.
So we can start with that type of service to let people know how to use that app, and then we can go into the other apps of what the service is going to have.
That would be cool to have a meeting on that, to train people on the apps.
Or just to have a person available for certain, hours during the day.
Yeah, someone
Just
hall
being
service like
sure
that.
if they're waiting for buses out here, they can come in and get tutorial.
Mhm.
Yeah, I heard about that journey app, but I couldn't quite understand what it was.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly give folks some lessons, and they're nice to have once you have them. So
Yeah, I can download an app on my computer, I just can't do it on my phone. It asks for a so I'll talk with my mom about a password.
sometimes the Apple's they're very sensitive about the passwords.
Right,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Apple Store.
Android's not as.
So we'll have the VIA is going to take the place of what now is Traverse. So VIA is going to be our link on demand. And if all works right, VIA says it should be able to handle the traffic for not only the city of Traverse City, but Grand Traverse County and Leelanau County as well. So that's the hope that VIA is going to be able to get this link on-demand ride that day or that hour using VIA for all Grand Traverse and Leelanau County. So the entire data system. So it's what the VIA app should do. Very similar to how Transloc works. You see the bus there, tell you when the bus is coming, you schedule your ride. You can also do it by phone through dispatch as well.
That's easy for me right now, but.
Yeah. And VIA will have that. VIA and the GMV app will talk to each other in a way where VIA can also have actually think, let's see, if you're trying to schedule a ride, actually say, there's a free Bay line going by you. Why don't you just take that? Or you could take Route 1, it'll cost you a fraction of the cost it's going. So they can talk in some ways and give you other options other than, on the
What
Bay
would be
line.
cool is having like a texting app for Beta. That way you can contact the driver through their computer system.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
good work.
and that way they know that they're on their way. Or, like a texting system where they text you back and say, hey, we'll be there.
They
5
got the
minutes.
text.
Yeah.
But they can't.
The drivers can't text with everyone
Well, I
when
meant-
they're parked. They could send a communication. Yeah.
It did have
So
some,
something through their-
some of that. Someone asked once that they're waiting at a stop at night. It'd be nice if they can use that app to let the driver know that there's someone waiting at a certain stop, so that it might flash go, there's some waiting for you. So whether interaction between that and that type of thing.
So case dispatch is closed for that day
Mhm.
already. You're not sitting out there going scared at 8 o'clock at night going, is my bus coming or?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
know-
if we could have some better lighting at some of the more outlying stops.
Yes.
So that's just an idea. I know that they already have something that sends out something that says,
But it's one-way communication. It's not two-way.
yeah, I'd love to see a two-way.
So who knows in the future what the technology can bring us. So
Right,
we're
right,
getting,
right.
we're getting there. We're getting to that point where we can now, have this type of communication. where
And
you
then
have
maybe when they're at
real
a
time.
stop or something, they can push on that green bubble looking thing on there. If you can download that on their computer system, just click on it, go, we are on our way.
Mhm.
Bus 206 is on its way.
And in the same regard, the
Thank you.
VA should do that too. To be able to tell you, we're going to be
Right,
there.
and that's what I'd
So,
like, that's what I'm trying to say, suggest is, and then have them just sign their name at the bottom. This is Bill
Mhm.
coming to get you.
Exactly.
So it's an idea. I mean, I know you can't text and drive, but I mean, like maybe,
Yeah.
maybe at a stop or something.
There could be something automated built into it or something.
Yeah,
Or
Yeah.
something that
What do you
just
say?
requires the driver to press a button rather than actually typing out the text.
Mhm. Yeah.
The text, the message could be essentially automated or updated with.
yeah, it's just an idea. I mean,
And this could just be the beginning of what technology will do for transit.
It's
In
just-
the next 10 years, it could be really user-friendly transit. You're not just wondering, it's, everything, so.
I just, one concern I have is still providing and striving to also enhance usability on non-tech platforms.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
don't- A problem that I've encountered if I'm in a city that I'm unfamiliar with, okay, yes, they can say, I can see, here's a sign for a bus stop, and they say, download the app to find out what routes and times the bus will come here. And okay, I can do that, but if somebody else is coming through and might not have the phone handy or doesn't have the ability for whatever reason to download and use the app, they don't necessarily know even a cursory idea about what routes are coming through, what times they might be coming there, and where they'd be going.
With that said, we're trying to get more signs at bus
Mhm.
stops too. You're seeing some of the signs that have the glass
Yeah.
cover so we're trying to get those placed more often as well. So but some type of paper map that gives you kind of the gist of what's coming by and how often. And then for more information, for the.
and maybe that app I'm suggesting won't work because you're already sending something out. The bus is currently on its way. But it's just more of
Who knows?
I
The
mean,
sky is the limit.
that's right, yeah.
So hopefully.
So I'd really like to get your feedback on, all right, we've got these two new technologies coming down the pipeline over the next 6 months. What are some good communication methods for getting that out to people, letting them know that it's available to them? Is it doing open houses, physical open houses where we can have people come and ask questions? Is it a flyer or a brochure? Is it YouTube video for people
I
to
think
watch
it's-
online? What method should we make sure that we utilize?
7 and 4 news.
Sure, news,
9 and 10.
like news stories, sure, PR.
YouTube.
To hit seniors, you're probably more likely to hit them with radio.
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 okay.
Radio stores.
The pamphlets like you were brochures like you were talking about.
And we do
Someone
need
on the bus to show them this.
Record Eagle.
Many of our seniors do not have smartphones, they do not have computers, especially when they're eighties or nineties. So the whole
Or if they-
electronic platform isn't gonna be enough to tell them, like,
Even if they have a smartphone that's tied to an app for monitoring their blood sugar levels, they use their smartphone for that specific purpose. They're not seeing their smartphone as a tool to communicate and do everything.
yeah, and most of them would not know about it. They don't use apps, they don't do that. Now, there are 60 people in their sixties and seventies, more and more, of course, over time. This is the
And
way it's
they'll
gonna
move
go.
into that.
But we still have, you know, a good 20 years worth
How about the
and I
trash
can be
can?
in there, we're never gonna be able to use the electronic keys, are gonna need the phone. But for us to get information out there to them, though, that there are these new ways, a written peek that we could mail.
Traverse City Express.
Would be very.
So keep the written pieces.
It-
There's
it's gonna
folks
be
who will
important
they'll never use this app, but keep
Yeah,
making
So-
sure.
that they know that they can call, that they know.
Maybe the TC Express or the Record Eagle or the Traverse City Magazine.
And, April, Demarie, Susan, thoughts on getting the word out on these new technologies, and how to help make the transition or make it user friendly for them to know about it.
So, I mean, we can put an article in our newsletter that goes to like 5,700 households in Leelanau County. And you know, we haven't done anything so many years, Eric, but we used to do a presentation. You guys would come and do and on BATA and then have people ride the bus too. I mean, that might be another thing that we could do a presentation, you know, this summer when you get it going, up and going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill and I had that discussion when he was here the later part of last year about having a day where we invite our consumers in to help them learn that app. And I think that'll be the most efficient way for our riders to get that information. It's that hands-on learning and using it that way.
Kind of tangible in real time. Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
sit there around the room. We can even, if people do have phones, we can kind of actually go one by one and show everybody right there in a non-stressful environment of just how to use it and to practice with it. So
That's a great idea, that in person. Is because a lot of seniors are gonna see, they'll see a piece of paper saying we have this new technology and I don't know anything about that, so like, they won't even read it. So I think having someone available one-on-one, where you talk to them about it, and explain it,
Yeah,
give all the help you can is the best way to go.
Because I'm a visual learner. I learn by having somebody help me
yeah.
and I can, use my phone. Oh, this is how you I know how to download. It's easy to get it.
I have a couple more thoughts on that. So one thing would be if someone from BATA could come to one of our staff meetings. So I've got 40 people on the call. All of them are in homes of seniors. Whereas if these younger staff members could learn how to use the app and see it and do it on that call, then they can turn around, teach it to clients when we're there. So that's one
So
thought.
staff member training.
Staff member training for us, because we see 1,800 people, so at least there's a chunk of seniors we should talk to about it. And also, I don't know if Michelle is still on the call, but in the past, the senior center has had technology classes on all kinds of different things for seniors, so that might be another location where you could have someone from BATA come maybe 2 or 3 different times, where there's a sign-up class for seniors coming in. Something like that. So it would be a good facility to possibly go to where you could see seniors, whereas for us, they come to us, we go to them. So, but the senior center.
Yeah.
And those are the more active seniors, who are more likely to have apps,
Sure.
or smartphones, and computers, as those who go to the centers.
And your chairs would be useful.
Okay. Thank you. That's all great feedback. We only have 3 slides left.
All right, so our fares are still as they've been. The link on demand is still at full price, $6 for full and reduces $3. City Loop is $1.50 and reduce it 75, and Village double that. Village Link is half what Link on Demand is. So if you're getting a ride in advance by scheduling your Village Link, that's $3 versus the $6 for the Link on Demand, and reduces $1.50. Now, some difference between those Link on Demand, you're guaranteed to get that ride. You schedule a ride, you're going to get it. Village Link does fill up, so you got to call in advance and get it. You might not have what you want at the time you need it for Village Link. In the future with VIA, they say that the technology and how it's going to guide so that they're going to be able to fit everybody in who wants those rides, as what VIA is saying. So, we do have commuter passes and unlimited loop rides as well. So that's $40. Yeah, we have all kinds of other day passes and 3-day passes and such as too, but a popular one is the commuter pass. So 31 days for $40. Other pass ideas too. You can get more of a discount if you buy Zoom cards or zip tickets. Every $30 you spend, you get a free $3.75 ride. You also have student cards as well for the year and such as that. So there's our fare structure, and you can get these also on the Journey app. So,
and that is unlikely to change at some future time, even if staffing and service levels do.
So you're talking about fair price?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is no plan to change the fair price at all. Beta's board can review that at any time and determine what that needs to be. So far, we've been able to absorb any increases from inflation with increased fuel prices and wages and things like that. We haven't had to see, and the fare box is such a small piece of our budget in the grand scheme of things. Millage, state, federal funding, those are the pieces that make up the big chunks of our pie. This is just an added component of that. We do have a fare review plan for 2025. So our whole fare system and kind of looking everything top down. So there could be something that may happen around that time, but right now things are kind of set in cruise control.
As far as fares go, cash and zip tickets and all those take time. It takes those units, the Gen Fare units that are on buses are costly to buy and maintain. So using the app, the phones, it just changed. It did use the passage before. This fall, they turned to Journey this December. So it's pretty much the same. It's the same company. The app is very similar. It's got some things about it on it. I do some traveling lately where I've used apps in different cities, and I actually really do like ours compared to some cities. So I think they did a good job on that. So
how's New Orleans?
New Orleans is great, and they have a great app too, but ours is very good transit. It's with a good app, very similar to our app. So if you haven't already used Journey, you want us to help you out with that. It's just a convenient way. You don't have to go and grab any type of bus fares from the offices. You can pay with your credit card. You can use your phone, and you can use it that way. And it does actually make boarding a lot more efficient as far as time goes. When the bus pulls over, sometimes you're behind the bus, everyone's loaded on. You're wondering what's going on. How come they're not moving? In many cases, it's because they're trying to figure out paying and fares and all that. With the Journey app, once you get on, you just show the driver and the bus keeps going. So as far as getting more people on faster, the Journey app does help with that. So. And we've got some things in the future for this year. So some route adjustments possibly. We'll look at seeing that as we try to do those not a couple times a year, so it's consistent. We can put out information and flyers for that. We do have some new brochures going out with the different loops and times and such. And of course, we've got some the next wave that we've been working on to figure out whether or not our short-term and our long-term goals are going to be realized. We've got some stop improvements that we've been doing lighting, we've been doing heating. If you notice the nice little heater buttons at stops and some other lights. So we're always having those to look at and also a lot more signage to sell schedules and information. We're going to try to get that. The technology we talked about, and our headquarters will have a groundbreaking on that. So we talked about that throughout the year. So the headquarters will one of the first of its kind in the Midwest, where you're going to mix housing with transit and even some retail. And it's going to
When
be
does that development start?
groundbreak this spring.
Probably doesn't have a date set.
We're supposed to be moved in by the end of summer, beginning of fall 2024. So all the bids went out for the contractors right before Thanksgiving. They are going through the bid selection process right now. So here in January, we'll finalize who the contractors will be for all of those bids. And I mean, if we don't really have a real winter, I'm assuming we'll probably start like April. If winter does decide to kick in, it might be more likely to May before we start moving dirt and things like that. But the goal is to be in the new facility by the end of summer, fall of 2024.
Yeah, if you don't have to worry about freeze thaw, then you don't have to wait until May 15th.
No, yeah, we can go quicker. So,
But I've got my shovel ready.
all right, fantastic. I'll call on you.
Let's get her done.
Yeah.
Very exciting about something in that new building.
It's gonna be so exciting, yeah. Although we can use more drivers and mechanics and dispatchers from an overall perspective, we're bursting at our seats. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
How can we facilitate that? Maybe put a Facebook page out for anybody that's interesting, you know, have all the requirements.
So we've got ads running on television, radio, social media as well. There's a dedicated page on our website for hiring.
So you've done everything.
I think we've checked all the boxes that we did.
We're not the only ones hiring, so it's kind of.
Well, right.
Sorry that my schedule's busy with meetings.
Right.
Well, that's good that you guys have opened up all the avenues, YouTube, you know.
Yeah. So that's what we have. Before we go into roundtable, can we skip to number 5 real quick and just the meeting of timeline?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to volunteer to be the chair for the year?
The chair, now what does that entail?
All you need to do is just kind of sign off on the meeting minutes of the
Write your
meeting. Mhm. That's really it.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah. Would you like to take the role, Matt, this
Yeah,
year?
yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll take it.
all right.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay.
I would be the only one to oppose. I wouldn't get no.
All right, so Matt will be our chair. So mindful of everyone's time, it's 1:30. If you need to hit the road, go for it. Otherwise, we will open it up for roundtable. Yeah. So we decided at the end of the year last year, what was it, 3 times for the year? I
Yeah.
think we decided.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were doing it kind of every quarter, but even that was a little bit heavy. So I think we kind of like one now, one kind of mid-year, one kind of near the fall end of the year.
We've been talking about our spring one, maybe getting out a little bit on some buses.
Talk about riding a bus for our spring summer one and kind of checking out the services and things like that. So,
I think that's good.
yeah.
Okay.
What other points, questions? Feel free.
Just
to
looking at
roll.
the renderings.
Yeah.
And talking about smaller buses, is there really going to be a Beta Mini Cooper?
Beta Mini Cooper. No, not
Or is that
this time. That was just parked in the front.
I want to see a shaped bus, but
Beta. Yeah, you guys are coming up with some
talk
great ideas.
to Kurt about what we're doing.
Let's see how that flies at the village.
I hate seeing police departments with high-end sports cars, but that is generally.
Based on other heights.
Yeah, no, it's specifically a vehicle that they have seen as part of
Sure.
a drug deal or whatever. And then they put a police wrap.
Beta won't be seasoned anymore because
And I also wanted to thank everybody at this table for support for our Religion initiatives and activities. You guys helped educate and get the word out, and thank you very much. It passed at over 60%. We were very fantastic. There were only 3 precincts that it actually didn't pass it. So we were really, really excited. But I know you're fantastic. Well, fantastic. So, I think the community came and supported our initiative.
Amazing. Every single one of them, you know.
It was, Whitewater, What's Carlin's Township?
Green light.
Oh, there has to be,
Yeah, Grant.
Grant, and then one other one. Those were the only three.
Everywhere else.
Greenland did.
Yeah.
Like better.
I would guess it was-
All of Leland County did as well.
Leland County did.
Oh, yeah.
See what people in general.
Thank you, Traverse City.
Years ago, it was not looked on very favorably. It didn't have a great reputation. I don't think it was very well run. And buses were terrible. But I now think, at 30 years later, I can look at BATA and say, I think this group is extremely important to BATA. Because we all support it, we need the services.
Yeah.
We truly recognize what's needed in our community, and I think it's very important that we very much support the management and the employees that are working for BATA and keep our ears open and, you know, pay attention so that we can support if they need our support. You know, we don't want anything to go backwards or someone to decide that they don't think they like the way the place runs or something, and when it's running perfectly fine.
We need to back that up.
As a group. And because that's what our friends of transit do.
This is what you guys are here for, PRT.
Yeah, we're not here because we don't like BATA. And really, you shouldn't be on any board or any groups at all. You have to support the group we're in and the organization you're representing. So I think it's extremely important to keep our ears open. And wherever, if BATA needs, management needs our support, we're here. You know, you feel free, you know, and as chairperson, I think it's important that if you get the notice that BATA's kind of experienced some problems or something and they need us
I'll
for
come forward.
the backbone or whatever, then we need to be there to help.
I will support it in 100,000%.
Well, we all do.
Everybody call me, you know, if you need some ideas to help keep the buses rolling, if you need help.
Don't mess up a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've got to say.
30 years behind us, 30 years to go, plus 130.
30 for you.
Yeah, I support.
30 for me, maybe.
We can.
Marie, any final words at all?
I did have a consumer raise an issue about potential safety. When an on-demand bus picks up a person, do they have the destination already in their dispatch? So this young woman was concerned because she's been having to shout out her stop after being picked up. And she feels like that's a safety concern, you know, that she doesn't really want the whole bus knowing that, you know, she's going to work or, you know, going to a doctor's appointment or, and she primarily uses on demand.
The destination does, it doesn't show, first, it only shows one. So it'll show the pickup address, pick that person up, and then it will show the destination address once it picks up that person. If there are multiple people on the bus, and let's say my destination is not the next stop, it won't show that my destination until it completes the ride that it is designated for the next one. But it does show on the driver's screen where they're supposed to go. The passenger should not have to tell, I mean, they can tell the driver, hey, I'm going to here today, just to let you know, type of thing when they board the bus, but it does display on the driver's screen where they're taking the passenger to, when that ride comes up in the cadence of their delivery.
Okay. And she just expressed that that was uncomfortable for her, having to, especially now that the buses are more crowded and, you know, so she could easily just tell the driver when she gets on that she's going to her work or whatever, and then not have to shout that out again, correct?
You could not, yeah, and then the driver will know when Walmart pops up on his screen, Sally's going to Walmart type of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, keep on being the best transportation city in northern Michigan.
We will continue.
Well, we did, everyone here has these papers for our MDOT plan, and everyone online has some emailed to. This is the stuff we generally went over today. If you see anything on here that, at the end, it has a little section where it says what your all's comments about this, basically has the stuff we talked about today. Has your names in here. We'll put Matt as the chair. If you see anything in here you need to comment on further than what we already have in the minutes, kindly send that my way. We'll get this to MDOT, or you can write it down here and hand it before you leave. So.
All right. Well organized.
All right.
So am I supposed to sign something?
No, you don't have to sign anything today. You'll sign the minutes at our next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
time. Thanks for the treat, for the treats and the lunch.
You have coffee next time?
We will have coffee next time.
Maybe even some heat.
I mean, I'm sure there's a coffee pods over.
And thank you for the card.